Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get started this evening. Thank you all so much for being here. I'd like to introduce Dr. Kealoha Fox, the Executive Director for the Office of Climate Change, Sustainability, and Resiliency here at the City and County of Honolulu to open us up this evening.
Mahalo, Sarah. Aloha, everyone, and good evening. The City and County of Honolulu and its respective agencies are pleased to welcome all of you to tonight's Oʻahu Firm Virtual Open House. We would like to thank federal, state agencies that are with us and all of our community partners for their collaboration and support of our island. Thank you for all who have logged in live and those who are watching this recording later. Thanks for taking the time to be with us, get the most updated information, get resources, and ask your questions. Finally, much gratitude is extended to all of the public servants and team members committed to flood risks change over time. I now invite Sarah Harris of the Resilience Office to share more.
Mahalo, Kealoha. So this evening we have a few things we're going to talk with you all about. We're going to start with the timeline of the firm update, and then we're going to talk about the city's participation in the National Flood Insurance Program. After that, we'll have staff from FEMA sharing about the background on the preliminary firm updates, sort of where this data came from, and then we'll also be going over some of the maps so you can understand what the changes mean. After that, there will be representatives from FEMA and the state's insurance division to talk about flood insurance requirements. And finally, we'll wrap up with some next steps that are happening in the update process, as well as resources for everyone online today. So who all is involved in a firm update? Well, it's a variety of different federal, state, and local agencies, and we all have a different role to play in these update processes. So FEMA is responsible for administering the National Flood Insurance Program, and they develop the flood maps that we're going to talk about tonight. So the state's role is that they act as a coordinating agency and a liaison between FEMA and the county. They provide technical assistance and are really great resources for helping to support and maintain our participation in the National Flood Insurance Program. And then the city's role is that we administer the NFIP through our local land use ordinances, and we provide local data to FEMA about our flood risks. Additionally, it's our role and responsibility to notify all of our residents about any changes to our firms, and that's why we're all here this evening. Finally, the city's role is to enforce NFIP regulations, and that's through the Chapter 21A that staff from the city will be talking about later tonight. So the firm update timeline has been a long one. It has been ongoing since 2019 when FEMA engineering analyses were first started on Oahu's various stream reaches. These then moved into risk meetings with city staff, state staff, and FEMA staff to talk about the findings. And then the preliminary maps were issued in July 31st, 2024. Back in November of 2024, when the preliminary notice came out, the city held another virtual open house and an in-person open house, and we've had ongoing community outreach since that time. In March of 2025, a formal appeal period was started, and that was an opportunity for residents to formally appeal any of the findings made on the preliminary maps, as well as provide comments. That closed in June. So with the closure of the appeal period, FEMA reviewed everything that was received, and a letter of final determination was issued on December 10th, 2025. And we're here tonight to talk about that. So with that, now staff from City's Department of Planning and Permitting will be sharing more about how the city participates in the NFIP.
Hi, my name is Kiyomi Oyama, and I'm with the Department of Planning and Permitting, the floodplain manager for the city. I'm going to try to keep everybody awake here. So the National Flood Insurance Program started about 60 years, nearly 60 years ago, and it allowed federally backed flood insurance to be available for property owners in participating communities. So in 1980 is when the city joined the NFIP, and this allowed residents to obtain federally backed flood insurance. And it also provided access to other types of disaster insurance for the city and county. So the NFIP doesn't just benefit individual property owners, but it's affecting all of us. So in participating, the communities are agreeing to adopt floodplain management standards that reduce flood damage. In order to determine the different areas of flood-prone risk and how we're going to manage these areas, FEMA uses the flood insurance rate maps, or FIRMs, Excuse me. The next slide, please. So the FERM is FEMA's official tool to show the special flood hazard areas or the flood zones. Oahu has 6 high-risk zones, and these all start with the A or V designation. We also have zones X and XS, as well as zone D, which is undetermined, meaning we just haven't studied it yet. For DPP, the A and V letter zones are the main areas of concern tonight. These are the areas that FEMA has studied and mapped with the annual 1% chance of flood. And they've determined that these are the elevations to which water may rise in these areas. So the base flood elevation, if you've heard that term bandied about. And then we can go to slide 9. So FEMA requires NFIP participants to adopt these firm maps, identifying the areas that the city is going to manage. And these also set the standards for development to protect life and property. You can go to the next one. So these standards that we set up are all detailed in Chapter 21A of the revised ordinances of Honolulu, and they vary depending on flood zone. So you're looking at, will water be rushing through this area from a nearby stream? Or if it's during a rain event, is it going to be ponding and you'll have rising waters? Or is it going to be pounded by waves during a storm? So those are all detailed out in Chapter 21A. The different requirements for designing and development in the different flood zones. Can do the next one. So we've adopted these firm maps and we periodically update them with FEMA's help. They studying this different flood zones, different streams, and all in an effort to identify these areas that are, sorry, I just got static. Hello?
We can hear you, Kiyomi. We can hear you
Okay,
perfectly.
a lot of
Thank you.
static on my end.
Yep.
I'm sorry, but it's
No,
all
no
in an
problem.
effort to identify these flood zones, and minimize our risk. And then with that, I'll turn it over to Melvin, who can go into the details of the firm maps.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Melvin. I am the geographer for FEMA Region 9, as well as the project manager for this map revision. I'll just be talking about a little bit of the mapping process behind this revision, as well as where and how to interpret the flood insurance rate maps. Next slide. So flood zones are designated by the severity and the type of flooding in an area from the water source, I'm sorry. Areas at high risk is considered a special flood hazard area, and that consists of the floodway in the A zones, and they represent 1% annual chance of flooding. Areas outside the special flood hazard area are the X zones, and they represent 0.2% annual chance of flooding. As you can see within the A zone is the floodway. This area acts as a passageway. If a flood were to occur, it would be a passageway for that water to flow downstream. So this area is considered to be preserved from any type of development, as it can create a greater hazard. Next slide. Yeah, some important features for the new flood mapping. We did a approximate and detailed analysis of over 400 new streams. Within that analysis, we were able to do modeling, surveying, and using LiDAR and topographic data, determine current ground conditions, and that's how we developed these floodplain boundaries. Any LOMARs or letter map changes that have been validated after the effective mapping, prior to this effective mapping, have been validated and reflected into the new maps. Next slide. So this is the Map Service Center. This is where you can locate your particular area and identify if your property was in a flood zone or not. Once you go onto this website, all you gotta do is type in your address, or if you know the coordinates, it'll take you to a map viewer. And you have selections to download data, look at flood data reports and tables, as well as any letter map changes that have occurred. Next slide. So the areas that we study throughout Oahu can be seen here, as you can see on the yellow boundaries. These yellow boundaries represent the firm index or firm panels. Each panel represents, each panel will give you the area, the data, information regarding each studied. Next slide. So reviewing preliminary flood data. Next slide. So the appeal period started back in March 13, 2025. During that 90-day appeal period, property owners were able to submit an appeal or comment to either change their designation from out of the flood zone or not. Once that appeal period ended, we were able to collect any of those appeals or comments and implement them into the upcoming effective maps. Once the maps come effective, property owners still have a chance to submit an appeal through a letter of map revision. Once the maps become effective, you will also receive a summary of map actions, which lists all the letter map revisions that have been validated. Next slide. So you can review the preliminary flood map on the City and County of Honolulu's website. This is a little GIS tool that you can analyze what the current flood zones are right now. And then with the upcoming maps that are going to become effective. Next slide. And we have a little video.
To access the updated firm maps, visit our website, Get Flood Ready, and click Firm Update. Scroll down and click View the Final Firm. First, you'll see directions on how to read the maps. This includes instructions about which zones are in the special flood hazard area. So that's all zones that start with an A or a B. Click Enter, and then you'll see the maps. So the current flood zones on the right are the old flood zones, and the preliminary flood zones on the left are the new zones. You can search for any address. So for example, we're going to look at A'ala Park. As you can see, I entered in the address and it already zooms in for you. You can zoom in further if you'd like. And these blue outlines indicate the parcels. So to learn about the specific parcel you're interested in, just click on it and a splash screen will open up. So here you can see that your current flood zones, which again are your older flood zones, was AE and X. And now in yellow, you're now in the AEF zone, which again is the special flood hazard area. You can also see this visually by sliding the screen across to see the old maps and the new maps. You can use the legend on the right for reference to see what color is what map zone.
It's a little bit of background of the parcel boundaries throughout Oahu. There are approximately 172,000 parcels. Currently, 15,000 of those are within the special flood hazard area, and they will increase once the new effective maps become effective. Approximately 18,700 parcels will be in that special flood hazard area. 55,000 parcels will become from Zone D to Zone X. Next slide. This is an example of approximate study we did. We took an area that's unincorporated, also known as Zone D. We did approximate analysis, analyze the streams. We came up with Zone A and Zone X. Next slide. This is an example of a property that is either coming out of a Zone X into Zone AE or a Zone AE going to Zone X. As you can see on the left, this property increased from Zone X to Zone AE, and the property on the right went from Zone AE to Zone X. And with that, I'll hand it over to Carlos Rendo for flood insurance.
Great. Thank you very much, Melvin. Appreciate that. Well, let's get right into it. So Protect the Life you have built with flood insurance. And so I'd like to just, apologies. My name is Carlos Rendo, and I'm coming at you from FEMA out in Oakland today, and wonderful to be here. So let's just get right into the next slide. We're going to start off. Flood insurance is mandatory for properties in the special flood hazard area with a federally backed loan or mortgage. So that begins June 10th when these maps become effective, then these become requirements. Now, when is it not going to be effective? If you have your home paid off, if your loan is not through a federally backed loan mortgage, let's say you're going through the Bank of Australia, that might be something for a lot of residents in Hawaii possibly. But if it's your standard Wells Fargo, Chase, etc., those are federally backed companies, and hence they have these requirements with them. I will say really quick, if it starts with an A or a V, you're in that special flood hazard area and you have flood insurance requirements. If you're in X shaded, Zone D, those aren't required. There's no requirements for flood insurance there. Next slide, please. So there's a lot going on here, but I'll start from the top. Now, we ask ourselves, hey, is this a new requirement? When did this all come about? Well, this rule comes about from over 50 years ago, and it was passed by Congress through the Federal Disaster Protection Act of 1973. Now, when it's required, how are you going to know? We're trying to prep that, of course, with this, and I just want to say, if you get, as soon as the maps become effective, you'll get a letter from your lender, your mortgage holder, and we call it a 45-day notice. Now, a 45-day notice is pretty much your lender saying you need to purchase flood insurance. According to our information, please purchase it. Now, for you, and I want to stress this, that, let's make sure my audio is good. Okay, so I want to stress this, that this 45-day notice, if you do not purchase flood insurance within that period, the lender will go ahead and purchase it for you. Maybe it's easier for you, but they'll also get something that's more expensive most of the time. So, who to get insurance from? Of course, we talked that your lender would get it for you if you don't respond back within that 40-day notice requirement period. Now, you can get insurance from FEMA, the NFIP program. A lot of companies carry this NFIP policy. Now, it might be cheaper, but it might not be. We always tell people to talk to their insurance agents and get the best quote for you and what your needs are. And, that includes private non-NFIP flood insurance companies. So let's go into it with the next slide, please. So I do want to mention this is one of the drawbacks of the NFIP program that, well, typically a government shutdown maybe lasts 1 day, 2 day. During that shutdown, if you have a flood insurance policy, you're still covered during that shutdown in case of disaster. But it's awkward because during this shutdown, you can't renew your policy. We can't sign new policies. So that's a big downfall, especially considering during the last shutdown, it lasted 6 weeks. Now, what did most people do? They just signed a flood insurance policy with a private insurance carrier. So that was the workaround. Let's actually go to the next slide, please. So you might be saying, oh, these are the maximum coverage limits for the National Flood Insurance Program. And you might say, oh, my home, I bought it. Zillow says it's worth 500,000 or more. Well, the insurance actually just covers the structure itself. So we're taking that in consideration, not the land that it's on. And so that's one thing to take in consideration. Also, so the NFIP program works with different companies, and I think one of them State Farm, Allstate. Now, if you go to any one of these vendors and they sell this program, are they going to only limit you to $250,000 of coverage for just the structure? No, these are insurance companies. They'll give you an excess coverage of insurance. So that's just one thing to note. Now, if you go to a private insurance company, they can say, sky's the limit. We'll insure you for whatever you want us to. And either way, you're going to be getting the coverage that you want that covers your needs. I do want to talk about premium discounts. And in a little bit, I'll talk about these are statutory discounts. There's also some statutory fees. So let's get to the fun stuff first with the discounts. The pre-firm statutory discount, there's a newly mapped statutory discount. So you're going to get one or the other of these if you qualify. There's the CRS communities discount that the community gets for you, and for Honolulu, I believe it's 10%, but it'll be covered in just a minute. And then there's mitigation discounts, up to 5% off of your flood insurance premium. So let's just jump right into that. Next slide, please. So this pre-firm discount, it's kind of interesting. If your home was built before September 3rd, 1980, then it does qualify for this pre-firm discount as long as this is also your primary residence. It's not a commercial property. It's not a severe loss property, and it hasn't been substantially improved. So if you know that already, you should be thinking to yourself, okay, cool, I can get this discount. What's it mean? So they couldn't have worded it a little bit more awkwardly, honestly. The discount rate, 60% of the first $35,000 of your building coverage and $10,000 from the contents coverage. Generally, I want to promote these insurance discounts because it's going to save you cash. And these are all really worked out by the insurance agents that are going to be assisting you, and it'll auto-populate for them and give you a nice number of what these rates are. So let's just move on to the next slide, please. So here is that other discount. Now, and with both of these discounts, it's kind of important to note, if somebody got a pre-firm discount on that home that you lived in, and you moved in maybe years later, is that pre-firm discount still there for you? No, it's actually not. And, this is just one of those awkward things of the program, but this newly mapped discount, in terms of what Melvin was discussing, in terms of 3,700 policies transferring over that are going to be newly mapped, this discount is actually a little bit more than the last one discussed. Now, the important features here are you moved from B, C, D, X zone, basically non-special flood hazard area, into a special flood hazard area. Again, you can see these start with an A or a V. Um, Now, the policy, as soon as that firm revision date happens, which we mentioned was June 10th, then this discount becomes effective. Now, you also want to notice that, well, that's right around the same time that you get this 45-day initial lender notification. So you want to plan it wisely. I would think within the next few months you want to start making some calls, just generally get an idea of what insurance companies you're looking at, or just talk once or twice to your insurance agent, and just know that this discount happens right after the map becomes effective. Now, let's say, for instance, my lender placed a 45-day it's on day 46. The lender actually says, "Hey, you didn't contact us. We got you insurance." And then you're like, "Wait a minute, this is awfully high. Can you look at this flood insurance possibility? Uh, Maybe I can still get that." Yeah, that discount is available for the 12 months right after that effective date. Can you switch back and get this? Yes, you can. Um, and that discount rate, it actually goes down until your rate reaches its full premium. We call this a glide path. So it's going to decrease, and your yearly annual premium will increase steadily until you reach this full amount. How long does that take? If I'm going from $1,000 a year to $1,200 a year, it should happen pretty quickly. If I'm starting at 1,000 to 5,000, the math dictates that can take over 20 years to reach that rate. Um, just something to consider. And let's just jump to the next slide, please. So, in terms of mitigation discounts, right? So, mitigation discounts, if your home is properly elevated where your equipment servicing your building property, HVAC, your important electricals, if that's all elevated 1 foot above the base flood elevation, um, then you should be able to get up to 5%. And this includes if your home has a crawl space, you know, you want to make sure you have adequate flood venting, then FEMA will give you a discount of up to 5%. So let's get to the last slide here, which is the fees and surcharges. And you're like, "Great, Carlos, you told us about all these great discounts, but you took it right back away from us with these fees and surcharges." Now, the reserve fund assessment, I've noticed this one has changed through the years. I'm really hoping it goes back down because it's sitting at 18%. Um, the uh, Hawaiʻi surcharge, or the 2014 Homeowners Flood Insurance Affordability Act, the surcharge here isn't so bad at $25 per primary residence. And then there's a federal policy fee of $47 that all of these fees would be assessed together along with the premium amount. And most of all, I gave you all of these, but I want to put this special qualifier that I'm technically not a flood insurance agent, so these discounts, they flex a little bit. There's my best advice really is to be able to talk to your flood insurance agent, and they can make sure that all of these discounts are applied when needed. And with that, thank you very much.
Aloha, everyone. My name is Chloe O'Bara. I'm with the City Resilience Office, and I help to administer the community rating system for our community. So as Carlos mentioned, this is a program that our city joined in 2021 in its efforts to help increase our resiliency and also to ease the burden of this insurance. And so this is a sister program of the National Flood Insurance Program, and it provides flood insurance premium discounts to all property owners on Oahu based on the city's efforts to exceed the minimum standards of the National Flood Insurance Program. So as a result of our efforts to date, We are a CRS Class 8 community, which means that property owners with NFIP flood insurance policies receive a 10% discount on their flood insurance premiums. And the city is always working to improve its efforts to increase our points and qualify for additional discounts for property owners. Next slide, please. So if you're looking to get started with finding flood insurance for your property, you can visit the NFIP quoting tool at floodsmart.gov, which was just dropped in the chat. You can use the Find a Flood Insurance Provider tool. And through this, you can compare costs and explore which provider has the best coverage, terms, and rates for you. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Sam Thompson with the State Insurance Division to give you more information.
Thank you very much. I'm with the State of Hawaii Insurance Commissioner's Office. The Insurance Division oversees the admitted market of insurance carriers. That's your standards that you see out there advertising all day long on television. And the main charge of the Insurance Division is solvency, making sure companies have the premium. They're charging a premium that's adequate enough to pay for losses when they occur. So, insurance is a promise. If you have a loss, we're going to make you whole again. And our office's charge is to make sure that that promise is kept. And we have various branches that assist in that, checking rates, checking the policy forms, making sure policies are broad and provide protection that's being charged for. We have a financial examination branch that monitors the company's finances and makes sure things are trending well and they're rate adequate. They've got money on deposit for what their obligations are. The compliance enforcement branch is where I work, and we handle consumer complaints or issues with agents. We do have a fraud investigations branch as well that will criminally prosecute if people commit insurance fraud. Insurance works because it's the law of large numbers. It's very expensive things that happen, but they happen infrequently, and we're all able to pitch in a little bit of premium and share that risk. And if we're the unfortunate person the stat falls on, then the premiums go out the door to pay for our claim or our loss. And so we can switch to the next slide. And we're talking about flood insurance, and most people probably on this webinar are homeowners or live in an apartment or a condo, and you'll have what's called a homeowner's policy or a condo unit owner's policy that's going to protect you from losses. And most policies on homeowners are what's called an open peril policy. They're very common. There's also a closed peril. An open peril means basically we cover everything except for this list of things, which is generally flood, hurricane, nuclear war. And then there's going to be a closed peril, which is we don't cover anything except for fire. It's a very small list of what they cover: fire, theft, vandalism, those types of things. So a homeowner's policy is also what's kind of known as a package policy. It gives you various different protections. It has a liability component to it. Like if you leave your hose unwound in your driveway, your neighbor comes over to invite you over a barbecue, trips and breaks their wrist. That liability portion of your policy can help make them whole again, indemnify them, protect you if you're sued, your dog bites somebody, you get sued. Also, the policy will protect your structure itself, the dwelling and the contents from covered losses. So you have a house fire, you have a pipe that bursts, those types of things are what your homeowners or your condo owner's policy would step in for. One of the other things you'll have is a loss of use component. So your home's uninhabitable because of a covered loss, out of fire, and my kitchen, I can't cook, I can't stay there. So the policy will provide compensation for temporary housing somewhere, or increased cost of living because I can't cook, I have to eat out, those types of things. What's the increase I have daily because of that? So insurance is a very important factor in people's lives. It's not really for frequent things. Like, if you bought insurance for an oil change, it would probably cost about what an oil change costs. But if you bought insurance for if your house burns down, it's going to cost a very, very small fraction of the potential, 800,000, 500,000 loss that you could incur. And so with that, we would do encourage people to shop around, make sure they have coverage. And we can go to the next slide about talking to agents and shopping around. So, and if you are looking for flood insurance, start with the agent that you have a relationship with. We always suggest that, who's your car insurance with, who's your home insurance with. That's a great place to start and get some ideas. And if the agent is unable to help you, if maybe you've got a more special risk, they generally have some contacts of other agents that can help you with maybe some of your unique situations. And we do really encourage consumers to meet with their agent or their insurer if it's a direct writer, kind of go over what your coverages and protections are. You don't want to find out you don't have what you thought you have when you need it. So it is important to keep up to date. Or if you make major changes to your property, your life situation changes, that's a great time to talk to your agent. And our office is a resource. People are always welcome to call us and ask us questions, and we're here to help. So, and with that, we'll move on to the next.
Thank you, Sam. So now we're going to just kind of jump into what are the next steps with the preliminary update and what are some resources and contact information that you all can take from this presentation tonight. So we're now in that 6-month compliance period where the maps are going to become effective on June 10th. That will kind of kick off that 45-day period that Carlos spoke about this evening. So at this point, really, it's just we're all in this until the 10th when the maps become effective and those regulatory and insurance requirements come into place and effect. So here on the screen are a variety of different contact email addresses that you can reach out to. And if you have any questions after this evening, I know sometimes it takes a little while for things to set in, so you can reach staff online today through these various email addresses. And additionally, we will be hosting in-person open houses on Wednesday, January 21st. We will be at the Kaneohe Community and Senior Center from 9:30 a.m. until noon. And then we'll be at the IAO Public Library that evening from 5:30 p.m. till 8. So you are also welcome and invited to come to any of those in-person events. If you want a little bit more help, you'll need help walking through the comparison viewers online, the FEMA map tools, will be there in person to help walk people through that. But if not, you're also welcome to reach out to us via these email addresses for the various topics covered tonight. And then finally, we did want to reiterate that all of the information that we shared with you this evening is available. Almost all of it will be found on our Get Flood Ready website. It might take a little bit of scrolling, but it's all captured there along with all of the links that are being dropped into the chat right now for you. You're welcome to copy and paste those, but if you don't have a way to do that tonight, don't worry about it. This is the most important one to remember is that resilientoahu.org/getfloodready. You are also welcome to call our office if you need help finding information on our website.